you a brief outline of the different topics that we're going to cover today. So the disability service team are going to introduce themselves. We're then going to review your disability supports. Then we're going to talk about semester 2 support information, in particular applying for rooms on campus next year. Then we will do tips and resources for online learning, managing your wellbeing in semester 2, a calendar of upcoming events and activities, and then the Trinity Ability Co-op's upcoming projects and activities. We will then close the presentation with a question and answer session. The disability service registration over the past 10 years has increased dramatically, with 818 students registering with the service in 2010 to a record number of 1,826 students registering with disability service this academic year. With oncoming first years this year, mental health and Pacific learning disability were the most popular disabilities presenting at the disability service this year. Significant ongoing illnesses and ASD also make up a significant proportion of the disabilities presented. And then just to give you a broad overview of the new disability service applications in semester 1 this year, this covers right up from first year to postgraduate level. Again, mental health and specific learning disabilities making up a big proportion of this, with significant ongoing illnesses and ASD also making up quite a large proportion. And then the first year students with disability by course, as most of you guys know, the Arts Joint Honours, Biological and Biomedical Sciences and BESS are the bigger courses here in Trinity. So naturally they have the most students with disabilities on these courses. And this follows all the way down to nursing, medicine, law, computer science, engineering also making up quite a significant proportion. And then with the smaller courses, there's a smaller proportion, such as in emphasis, occupational therapy, and physical sciences, as these courses tend to be smaller.
I suppose this slide we have here is just to direct you to the contact details for the disability service team. So on the disability service website, when you go to our contact page, you'll see a profile of each of the staff members, their roles, and a description of what they do in the disability service. So if you are looking for the contact details of your disability officer or one of the staff that you interact with, you'll find their contact details on this page, and you'll also find information about how you can book a one-to-one appointment with that person.
Okay. Hi everyone, I am Courtney McGrath and I am a member of the Trinity Ability Co-op and I am a student with a disability. In this slide it shows the QR code for the disability service that have the online drop-in, which you can access the booking system by scanning the QR code. In these meetings you can meet with the disability officer and discuss your LENS report or any queries you may have. You can also contact the service at askds@tcd.ie. Next slide. Okay, so in this slide, we will be discussing the LENS report, which can be found on your My TCD portal. There's also a section and then if you go down to the drop down menu, you'll see My Disability Service, so you'll click into that. Let me go to the next slide. So on this slide, you can view your learning education needs support document, and then you can also see a section where you can upload your disability documents if you are registering to the service. Next slide. In your LENS report, it outlines your reasonable accommodations such as assistive technology and extra time for exams. Your lecturers also have access to your LENS report to ensure that you are supported in your academic learning. If you feel your current supports are not suited to your learning needs, then you can meet your disability officer and can change your supports and adjust your LENS report. And the LENS report then looks like that. Okay, that's it, yeah.
Hi there. I'm just going to mention briefly about applying for rooms on campus in Trinity Hall or Cabinet Court. And myself and Harry O'Brien will be holding a session for more information on this next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So I'm going to send out a link for that this afternoon. Basically, applications from continuing students for residential rooms on campus at Trinity Hall or in Cabinet Court for next year, September 2021, started, opened on the 10 a.m. last Monday and will close at 5 p.m. on Friday, the 26th of February. So if you're interested in applying for a room in one of those locations, you need to fill in an online application, and you can also apply for special consideration, and there's a link there to how to do that. If you are filling in the special consideration form, this year there's a slight change to the format. There's two forms, Form A and Form B, and Form A is for applicants who are applying on grounds of disability or on health grounds. And like I said, that we'll be hosting a short seminar or webinar next Wednesday at 1 o'clock to go into this in a bit more detail. And as I said, I'll send out an invite to that later on this afternoon. Thank you.
Hi, Alison Doyle here. I'm the academic support tutor. So I'm just going to run through a couple of slides to let you know about our Blackboard module. How you can access academic support and learning technologies, and the kind of work that we do in academic support sessions. Next, please. So in your Blackboard learning space, I'm going to introduce you first of all to Student Learning Development's Blackboard module. So if you go to the right-hand side of your screen and in the module search box, you type in academic skills for successful learning, and you click on Go, then you'll see a list of ASSL-TCD courses. You want to click on the one for 2020-21 and enroll yourself and submit. Next, please. So student learning developments modules span every aspect of academic skills, from writing, essays, exams, presentations, postgraduate research. So I strongly recommend that you explore those resources as well as contacting us. Next, please. So we have our own module. It's the same strategy. You go into module search, you type in disability service supports, and when you see Ask DS on the left-hand side, if you click on that and enroll yourself and submit, you will have access to all of our module content. Next, please. So this is divided into how to get support in college, help with essays and assignments, using assistive technology, preparing for examinations, staying well and minding your mental health. These are populated with a whole suite of resources, including audio, visual material, advice on specialist software, and so on and so forth. Next, please. So, for example, when we talk about assistive technology, some of our top 3 performers are Read and Write, and you can access that by contacting Andrew Costello, who's the Assistive Technology Officer, and he will send you an activation code. We strongly recommend Grammarly, not just for using in Word, but also if you add it to your browser, then it will correct your typing when you're filling in online forms, for example, and sending emails. And of course, there are a wealth of tools inside Office 365, including voice-to-text dictation. Next, please. So what do we do in academic support sessions? Well, a lot of the work is on understanding requirements of assignments or project work or case studies or theses, and helping you to work your way through that, because understanding what you're being asked to do is really the key to submitting a successful assignment. Next, please. A lot of that also incorporates looking at the feedback that you have received from academic staff, because you can use the feedback to improve the standard of your writing. So that's something else that we look at. Next, please. And finally, if you're doing projects, case studies, theses or dissertations, We want to ensure that you manage your time correctly so that you don't become overwhelmed with deadlines, etc. You can, we'll give you advice on collecting your readings, organising your data, and structuring your work. You can make an appointment in my calendar, but also you can use the QR code that Courtney mentioned earlier to book a time to speak to me on Wednesdays between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock.
Hi everybody, so my name is Aisling Claffey and I'm one of the occupational therapists in the service. So I'm going to talk about managing your well-being in semester 2. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about the 3 areas we can see here on the diagram. So I'm going to talk about you, your environments, and your meaningful activities. So we can see here on this diagram that these 3 areas overlap with each other and intersect. And the area in the middle, where all of these 3 areas meet, is what we call your participation in everyday life activities and your overall health and well-being. So on the next slide, we're going to start talking about you and your role as a student. So it's a good idea to take some time aside and think about how you work best and what helps you to learn. So it's a good idea to write down a couple of these factors and reflect on yourself. So for example, we can see here, this person is a night owl, so they work best at night. They like a bit of movement to help them learn. They can't concentrate if they hear people talking. And there's a couple more factors down there. So it's a good idea to think about what these factors are for you. And also on this slide, we're going to talk about you and your course demands. So at this point, early on in semester 2, it is a good idea to draw yourself out a little table like this, where you can write down your modules for the semester ahead and have a little think about each one in terms of the assessments that are going to be coming up, the percentage weight going towards each assessment, the demands then. So within each assessment, is there a certain word count you need to meet? Is there a certain style of exam you need to prepare for? And then of course the due dates. So doing something like this can be really useful to help you prioritise what to focus on this semester. But it's also really important to note where there might be some blank spaces on a planner like this. There might be some areas where you don't know the answer just yet, or you're not 100% sure. So now is probably a good time to go and look back at your handbook to be able to fill in these blank spaces, or to reach out to your professor if you need to. Now we're going to talk about your environments. So at this stage, many of you have probably chosen a study space somewhere at home. So it's a good idea to take a little look around and evaluate your environment. You can do this by asking yourself the questions you see here on the left-hand side. So think about what you can see. Is there clutter around you? Do you have much space? Are there certain things you can hear? And then write down the answers to these questions on an environmental evaluation. Next slide, please. So once you have done this, you will then have a list of ways that you can work best and a list of things that you've noticed in your environment. So it's a good idea to put these lists side by side and compare and contrast between them. You might find that some factors complement each other. You might find that some factors clash together. If we can see here in the yellow part that we've highlighted, if you're somebody who likes movement, and then in your environment, if you have space to move around, those 2 factors complement each other and work well together. If we can see on the blue highlight, if you can't cope with clutter, but your environment is quite messy, those 2 factors are going to clash together and create a little bit of difficulty. So in the next few slides, we're going to look at some strategies to help overcome those clashes. So one example might be that your environment is too busy or too messy. So some strategies you might use are trying to keep your desk clear of clutter. You can make something like in this image, a book caddy. You're using a shelf to put in all of your books and your study items together. Maybe putting this towards the side of your desk to create a little bit more space. Maybe you can face your desk into a wall to reduce the distractions. Maybe you can remove posters and photos if it's causing too much clutter around you. Another area might be that you are somebody who misses learning with others, and some of the strategies might be setting up group chats within your course. Maybe you can create a OneDrive folder with some classmates and share notes and study resources. Maybe arranging some video sessions where you can all talk through the topics and have kind of a book club. Even you can write down some questions and give the sheet to your family or some housemates and have them quiz you so that you have the opportunity to discuss the topics. Another area that might be a bit challenging is if your environment has too much or too little noise. So there's some easy strategies to overcome this. The first is maybe getting a set of headphones or earphones. You can either use this to block out the background noise, or you can use it to have some music or sounds that create a little bit more background noise if that's how you work best. There's some really good noise apps like Relaxio or a Soft Murmur. And Spotify has a lot of really good playlists in terms of music for concentration or music for relaxing. It's also a good idea to negotiate with your housemates or your family members if you think there are certain times of the day that you need the house to be really, really quiet. Maybe if you have a discussion group or if you have an exam. So looking at what these times are and then negotiating with others would be important. So the last area to look at are your meaningful activities. So it's a good idea to jot down what some of your activities across the week are, as we can see here on the left-hand side. It's then good to look over these and reflect on them a little bit. Think about if they fall under any of these three areas we can see in the clouds. So are they self-care activities? Are they productive activities or leisure activities? So self-care would include things like relaxing, looking after your hygiene and your personal care. Productivity would be studying and chores and work. And leisure would be engaging in your hobbies and spending time with friends, having fun. So it's always a good idea to strike for a nice balance between these three areas. You might find when you do this reflection yourself that most of your activities fall under one area or another. So it's a good idea to think about if you can add in any new activities or take some away from your week to try to improve your balance across these three areas. Once you've looked at the activities across your week, it can be helpful to plan them out on a timetable like we see here. What's important about this timetable is that we can see there's quite a lot of gaps and blank spaces. So it's always important to leave room for flexibility and free time. If we try to plan our week out hour by hour, minute by minute, it becomes really, really hard to stick to. And we might find that we're not actually engaging in a lot of the activities across the week. So trying to use some blank spaces to create flexibility is important. So you might like a planner that looks like this. It's quite detailed. Or on the next slide, we see another example of a planner that's just done out on simple post-it notes. So it depends what you prefer and what style works best for you. But we can see on both planners that we haven't tried to plan things out minute by minute. We've left a lot of flexibility. So the last thing I'm going to talk about just in terms of your meaningful activities across the week is transitions. So before COVID, many of you probably spent a lot more time out and about, outside your house, meeting other people, probably going to classes in person. So your days would have had a lot more transition activities. For example, you might have gotten the bus to school, and the bus would have acted as a transition between being at home and being in school. You might have had a cup of tea with a friend at lunchtime, and that would have acted as a transition between your classes. You might have even had to walk between different classrooms for different subjects, and that would have acted as a transition between the different subjects. So at the moment, many of us find that we are getting out of bed to go sit at a desk in front of a computer. We might be doing our lectures in the same place, having a snack at the same desk, maybe doing some independent study at the same desk, and then FaceTiming a friend in the exact same place as well. So the transitions aren't built into our activities or our routines in the same way they were previously. So it's important that we try to build those in manually ourselves. And this slide just has a couple of ideas of how you might do that. So making sure you're standing up and stretching between classes, getting a chance to move around, maybe get some fresh air outside, having a cup of tea and a chat, and maybe even doing a short guided meditation or a breathing exercise in the evening to help relax.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin. I'm the administrator with the Disability Service, and I'm just going to talk you through now a couple of events that we have coming up. For the month of February, we're focusing on getting students reconnected, re-engaged, and set up for the semester ahead. So this orientation event is all part of that. Over the next 3 Wednesdays, we'll be hosting a series of webinars. And you can see them there. Starting next Wednesday, Declan already mentioned he is running a webinar on applying for campus accommodation for students with disabilities. Then the week after that, on the 17th, we have a webinar run by our occupational therapists. So a bit like what Aisling spoke about there, maybe a slightly longer session on managing your well-being and planning for semester 2. And then on the 24th, we have a webinar on some of the assistive technology resources that are available to students with disabilities. So Alison as well mentioned some of these already: Grammarly, Read and Write, and also our AskDS Blackboard module. As well as that, the ASD group, drop-in group, will return. It returns next Wednesday at 10 o'clock, or at 4 o'clock, Wednesday the 10th. So we will post information on these on our social media, so links and stuff will go up as the events come up. So keep an eye on those channels.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm part of the Ability Co-op, and I'm going to talk about some of the projects and activities that we're doing over the next few months and how you can get involved. So there's lots of different ways you can get involved, but if you like the idea of anything that I mentioned, you can email us or message us on social media to find out more about it or how you can get involved. So first of all, we're working on an ASD awareness project. We wanted to go out in April as it's Autism Awareness Month. We want to highlight the experience of students with autism in college. Some of the aspects we want to look at is how it presents itself in different people, and how other conditions that people often have alongside autism can impact it and impact the student experience. So we're going to send a survey out in the next few weeks or months to gather some data and some information about these experiences that are anonymous, but we also want to share student stories through like video or podcast interviews or written pieces and things like that. So if you are a student with ASD and you like to send to this project, please do get in touch, because we'd love to start working with people to sort of create a group where we can share some of the ideas we have for the project and get more people involved. So the next project that we have going on at the minute is the Women in Invisible Disabilities project, which Jane is taking the lead on, who you heard from earlier. This project will explore women and their experience with invisible disabilities, how so many women's disabilities go undiagnosed until later in life, and how they learn to mask their disability symptoms to conform to society's expectations. This will be either a podcast or a video. And Jane is looking to recruit people who are female or female aligned with dyslexia, DCD, ADHD, ADD, bipolar disorder, and other mental health conditions. So get in touch if you are interested, and Jane will create a group to start discussing the project and what it will entail. We also received funding for 2 projects for the next few months. First of all, we are one of the groups to receive the Trinity Trust. We're going to develop a number of ways to make Trinity societies and clubs more accessible for students with disabilities. Some of the things we're going to do is to develop a checklist for making student organisations welcoming and accessible to everyone, develop inclusivity and accessibility guidelines, and disability awareness training for all clubs and societies in Trinity. And this will be led by students with disabilities, so it'll be a great way to change some things on campus and improve the lives of students with disabilities in college. And finally, we've also received the Equality Fund. And with this, we want to raise awareness of the experience of students with disabilities in Trinity through a media project. We want to create a short film and a podcast. It'll be a great way to highlight these experiences in a way that is creative and accessible through these projects. Obviously, due to COVID restrictions, we can't go about filming and doing a lot of the project right now, but we want to put together a team so we can start to talk about it. So if you'd like to get involved, please do get in touch. If you have any creative skills like graphic design, photography, video making, things like that, we'd love to hear from you, because we'd like to brainstorm and think of different things we can start to plan for the next few months. So that's kind of what we're doing. We'll be posting more information on our social media about how you can get involved in general and with these projects over the next few weeks. But if you have any questions, you can email us at abilitycoop@gmail.com or message us on social media.
Hi everyone, so I'm Claire. I'm one of the occupational therapists in the Disability Service, and I'm going to jump in here and host our Q&A. So we did gather some questions from our attendees in advance. So my colleagues Rachel, Jane and Courtney from the co-op are going to answer some of your queries. If you have any questions that have come up over the course of the presentation, please feel free to put those into the chat, or you're also welcome to follow up with us separately, whether that be individually with your disability officer or just to contact us by email. So you can see on this slide here, I've just included the contact details for the disability service, so our email and our phone there, and then also on the website you will find that contact page that I mentioned earlier. And then we also have the Trinity Ability Co-op contact details, their website, their email, and some of their social media accounts. So I do recommend following them on social media. They'll post a lot of information about their projects or even the results of some of their projects online. So they're definitely worth a follow. So for our first question here, somebody has asked, if you had exam accommodations for semester 1 exams, do you automatically have them for semester 2 exams, or do you need to reapply? So I think Jane is going to help us with the answer for that one.
Concerning that question, so when you register with the disability service, when you register with them back in September, your support's carried through, unless you want to change your supports, like Courtney explained the process of that earlier. So you only have to apply again if your supports have been changed.
That's great. Thank you very much, Jane. So the next question we received, I might also target this to Jane. Can you ask to change your LENS report? And Courtney kind of touched on this when she was talking about how to go back and review your LENS report.
Yeah, you can definitely change it if you feel like there's changes needed to be made. My advice would be to contact your disability service, to contact your disability officer, I wanted to say, or send a quick email to AskDS. And you can talk through the result. You can find someone in the disability service to talk through potential changes to your supports.
Great, thank you very much, Jane. The next question we have is, how do you approach asking for more help from your lecturers? And Rachel is going to help us out with this question.
Yeah, so it can be quite intimidating to go to your lecturers to ask for help, especially if you haven't done it before, but there are a number of ways that you can go about it. So you could ask your disability officer for advice about how to do it. You could also speak to your class rep if you were more comfortable doing that. But in my experience, most lecturers have been really happy to talk about it. So I would encourage you to email them, or you could also arrange to attend their virtual office hours, and you could even ask them how or when those are on. So yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. The next question is there going to be more supports in terms of online exams and assignments which were not introduced in semester 1? So Courtney's going to give us an answer for this one.
So there won't be any changes in the accommodations provided, but if you have concerns or additional support, you should get in touch with the disability officer. As I mentioned before, you can meet with the disability service to change your LENS report. So if your supports aren't suited to you anymore, you can get that changed. And also Alison mentioned the Blackboard supports module. So I definitely would recommend, if there's any kind of academic supports that you may need, to definitely utilize this app, because it is a great help. And if you hadn't used it last term, it might be very helpful to use it for the upcoming, well, we're already in the term, for this term.
Thank you, Courtney. Another student has asked, is there a disability tutor for postgraduate students? So Rachel, can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so every student registered with Disability Service has a disability officer, and that includes postgrads as well. But on top of that, there is the Senior Tutors Office, which the postgrads use that, and there's a postgraduate advisory service that you can access through that as well.
Great, thank you, Rachel. Somebody has asked for more information on how to join the Ability Co-op. So Courtney, could you give us some advice on how to get involved in the co-op?
Well, we're delighted that people are interested in getting involved, and in the chat there, I put in a link to join our forum. So here the members of the leadership team will be posting some upcoming projects that Rachel had mentioned. So, and then to we will have also we have our weekly meetings and stuff like that, and we're in the middle of adjusting, you know, the co-op to see what's the best way to get more members and stuff like that. So we definitely would want any help that we can get, and we'd love for more students to get involved. So, and I'll link some of the social media. I'll just link the more social media.
Thanks for that, Courtney. So the last question that I have here from the Q&A is about offers of support. So somebody has asked particularly around consultations with therapists. So I'm going to cover this question, and I suppose there's a few different supports that you can access both within the disability service and then in the college in general. So all students can avail of college student service support. So service, or for example the student counselling service. So if the therapy you're referring to is more so around mental health or counselling supports, the college health service and the counselling service are both equipped to support you with that. And then there are also supports for students that are specifically available through the disability service. So one of the main supports would be occupational therapy. For students who may need additional assistance on building skills and strategies for managing college and for managing your disability within your student role. So if you are interested in availing of occupational therapy, you can speak to your disability officer, who may be able to refer you. And I suppose if you have needs for some form of therapy or support outside of these ones that I've already mentioned, it is a good idea to speak with your disability officer, or even to speak with your college tutor, if you feel that you could do with some extra assistance in any area. So those are the questions that we've received in advance. I'm just going to double check the chat here to see has anything else come through while we were covering those. No, not as far as I can see. So that will bring our reorientation event today to a close. As I mentioned, if you have come up with any questions or there's anything that you would like to follow up on from today, please do contact us. So you can either check your LENS report, find your disability officer's name and contact, or look on the disability service website for our individual contact information. You can also avail of our drop-in, so the QR code is available in these slides. It's also available on our website. Or if you want to follow up with the Ability Co-op, Courtney has put their social media and some of their links into the chat there, so do get in touch with them if you have any questions, or if you do have interest in participating in any of their projects. So we hope you found this session useful. This session will be recorded, so it will be posted and it will be available for you to go back on later on. So just to finish off, we'd like to wish everybody the very best of luck for the semester ahead. We hope it goes well for everybody, and please do come back, get in touch with us if there's anything at all that we can do to support you. So thanks very much and take care.